I am not fit for any man, sir, but I can love your children. The boarding house matron stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Every girl your age has already left, Ruth. Married, chosen, found somewhere to go. She looked Ruth up and down. Tell me, aren't you fit for any man? Ruth's hands stilled on the dish she was washing. The words hit like a slap, but she'd heard them before. 2 years ago, on a train platform, she traveled 3 days to meet a man who'd placed a marriage ad. He laughed when he saw her step down, didn't touch her bag, didn't ask her name. He just said, "You're not what I ordered. You're not fit for any man." She took the next train back. That sentence never left. With the boarding house closing and only $17 to her name, Ruth saw a desperate handwritten notice tacked to a church bulletin board. Widower, 3 children, need help. She bought a train ticket to Redemption Creek. When the train pulled in, 3 pretty confident women were already there, laughing together about the desperate widower. James Hartley stood near a wagon, tall and work-worn, with 3 thin, quiet children behind him. The women sneered at his offer. They demanded higher wages, their own locked rooms and clothing stipends, complaining that his grieving children looked too wild. As they walked away laughing, James stood defeated. His smallest child, a little girl with dark braids, had silent tears running down her face. Ruth's heart cracked open. She walked straight past the laughing women and stood in front of James. He took in her plain dress and work-worn hands. She waited for the familiar disappointment, but it didn't come. "I am not fit for any man," Ruth said, her voice shaking but forcing out the truth that had been beaten into her. "I know that. I've known that for a long time. But I can love your children. I can care for them. I can make them feel safe. I can be what they need, even if I'm not what anyone wants." James stared at her. The moment stretched out, painful and endless. Then he asked one question. "Will you stay?" "Yes," she whispered. James nodded once. He turned, gently picked up his youngest daughter, and placed her right into Ruth's arms. The little girl buried her face into Ruth's shoulder and sobbed. The ranch was slowly dying. The house was in chaos, but the real challenge was 8-year-old Emma. She had built walls so high Ruth couldn't see over them, fiercely guarding her younger siblings and refusing any help. "Everyone leaves," Emma told her flatly. One morning, Ruth found Emma in the chicken coop, trying to fix a broken nesting box with hands too small for the hammer. She missed the nail, hit her thumb, and gasped, but refused to cry. "You're strong and capable," Ruth told her softly. "But Emma, you're 8 years old. You shouldn't have to carry everything alone." Emma's voice cracked. "I have to. Nobody else will take care of them. Everyone leaves." Emma wasn't pushing her away out of cruelty. She was protecting herself from another loss. Ruth opened her arms, and the 8-year-old finally collapsed into them, sobbing like the child she was. "Let me be strong for both of us," Ruth whispered. Ruth didn't just save the children. She saved James. He was drowning in his own grief, refusing to speak his late wife's name. When his son asked if his mother liked flowers, James snapped and shut him down. That night, Ruth found him in the barn. "You can't shut them out," she told him. "Your children are learning that love means loss and silence." When James finally broke down and took his family to his wife's grave, the heavy darkness over the ranch began to lift. For the first time in her life, Ruth felt like she belonged. But the town busybodies couldn't stand it. A stern county judge and a school trustee rode up to the ranch with a devastating threat. An unmarried woman living there was improper and a moral corruption. The judge gave Ruth 48 hours to leave the property, or the children would be dragged to a county orphanage. That night, packing her small bag in the dark, Ruth decided to leave to save them. But as she crept toward the door, Emma stood at the bottom of the stairs, her eyes wide. "You promised you'd stay." Her scream woke the house. All 3 children threw themselves at Ruth, begging her not to go. James looked at his breaking family, his jaw tight. "There has to be another way," he said. Ruth dropped her bag. "There is. We fight." James called an emergency town meeting. In a packed church, the judge laid out the complaint. But before he could finish, little Emma marched right to the front of the room. "My mama died, and I thought I had to be the mama after," Emma cried, tears streaming down her face. "But I was so tired. Miss Ruth didn't try to be my mama. She just loved me. She told me I could miss my mama and love her too." One by one, the townspeople stood up to defend Ruth. The judge, realizing he had lost the community, dismissed the complaint, but coldly stated they still needed to marry to make it proper in the eyes of the law. James turned to Ruth right, there in the middle of the church. "I want to marry you," he said, taking her hands. "Not because I have to, because my children chose you first, and I choose you now." They were married right there. Ruth had spent years believing she wasn't fit for any man, but she turned out to be exactly right for this family.